The gas station sat like a forgotten island at the edge of the highway, its neon sign buzzing and flickering as if it were tired of staying awake. Midnight pressed down heavy, the kind of night where even sound felt cautious. Officer Lena Morales stepped out of her patrol car, boots crunching softly on loose gravel behind the station. A routine call. Possible loitering, nothing urgent. At least, that's what the dispatcher had said. She keyed her radio. Unit 12. Checking the rear alley, she muttered, eyes scanning the shadows stretched long by a single broken floodlight. The smell of gasoline mixed with damp trash and old oil. Her hand hovered near her holster, not from fear, but habit. The streets had taught her never to trust quiet. A laugh cut through the darkness. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. 3 figures peeled themselves away from the shadows near the dumpsters, moving with the confidence of men who thought they owned the night. Hoodies pulled tight, faces half hidden. One blocked her path back to the cruiser. Another circled wide. The third stared at her like she was prey, not a cop. Easy, Morales said firmly, backing up a step. Police. Step away and keep your hands where I can see them. They didn't. The first shove came fast, hard enough to knock her off balance. Her radio hit the ground, skidding across concrete. Before she could draw her weapon, an arm hooked around her shoulder, slamming her into the brick wall. Pain flared hot along her spine. She fought back on instinct. Elbow, knee, training kicking in, but they had numbers and surprise. Thought you were tough, one sneered. Her heart pounded, not with panic, but with anger. She refused to scream. She refused to beg. She twisted, gasping, trying to break free as rough hands grabbed at her arms. The floodlight flickered again, plunging the alley into half-darkness, and for a split second she wondered if anyone at all, could see this. Across the street, engines idled. Morales didn't know it yet, but unseen eyes were already locked on the scene. Heavy silhouettes stood still beside motorcycles lined up under the gas station canopy. They hadn't moved, they hadn't spoken, but they were watching, and the night, which moments earlier felt empty and indifferent, was about to change sides. Across the street, beneath the harsh white glow of the gas station canopy, 6 motorcycles stood in a loose line like sentries. Chrome reflected the neon lights, engines ticking softly as they cooled. The men beside them hadn't come looking for trouble. They were passing through. Fuel, coffee, 5 minutes of rest before the long road swallowed them again. Then one of them noticed the movement. At first, it looked like nothing, shadows shifting behind the building. But years of living by instinct sharpen a man's eyes. One Hell's Angel lifted his head, gaze narrowing as he caught the sound of a muffled struggle carried on the night air. Another followed his stare, then another. No words were exchanged, but every one of them understood the same thing at the same time. That wasn't a deal going down. That wasn't drunk idiots fighting. That was someone in trouble. One of the bikers, gray beard, scar tracing his jaw, recognized the uniform immediately. A female cop, alone, outnumbered. His jaw tightened. Whatever history existed between bikers and police, there were rules that mattered more than grudges. And attacking someone from the shadows was one of them. They shut their engines off together. The sudden silence felt deliberate. Leather creaked as they straightened. Heavy boots hit the pavement, slow and steady, not rushed. They didn't run. Men like them never did. Running looked like fear, and fear was exactly what they intended to deliver. From behind the station, the officer's voice broke, short, strained, refusing to give in. That sound sealed it. One biker rolled his shoulders, another cracked his knuckles. A third adjusted the chain hanging from his belt. Not as a threat, as a reminder of who they were. They moved as a unit, spreading slightly, flanking the alley instead of charging straight in. Years of riding together had taught them positioning without planning. The gas station clerk glanced up from behind the bulletproof glass, sensing something was wrong, but said nothing. Everyone knew better than to interfere when the angels moved with purpose. As they reached the corner of the building, the bikers stopped just short of the shadows. They could see the struggle now, hands grabbing, bodies pressed close, the officer fighting to stay on her feet. One of the attackers laughed. That laugh didn't last long. A massive shadow stretched across the alley wall, followed by another. Then another. The men attacking the officer felt it before they saw it, that sudden, primal shift when the balance of power snaps. Someone behind them spoke, low and calm. "Step away from her." The night went quiet again, but this time, it was listening. The command hung in the air, heavy and final. "Step away from her." The three attackers turned slowly, confidence draining from their faces as the alley filled with leather-clad figures. The Hell's Angels didn't rush in shouting. They didn't threaten. They simply stood there, broad shoulders blocking the exit, faces carved with years of road, eyes cold and measuring. The kind of men who didn't need to prove anything. One thug released Officer Morales and stumbled back. Another tightened his grip, trying to use her as leverage. Big mistake. The gray-bearded biker stepped forward just enough for the light to catch the patch on his jacket. The third attacker swallowed hard. Everyone in that alley understood what that symbol meant. Whatever they'd planned tonight had just ended. "Let her go," the biker said, voice even. "This doesn't get better for you." Panic cracked through bravado. Two of the men bolted, sprinting past the dumpsters and vanishing into the darkness. No one chased them. The Angels didn't need to. The third attacker hesitated a second too long. Officer Morales drove her heel back into his shin and twisted free. He lunged, but a biker's hand closed around his collar, lifting him off balance with terrifying ease. Another Angel swept his legs out. The man hit the pavement hard, breath exploding from his lungs. That was it. No kicks, no revenge, no chaos. They pinned him down, firm and controlled, one knee between his shoulders, hands wrenched behind his back. He thrashed once, then stopped when he realized resistance was pointless. The Angels weren't angry. They were disciplined. That scared him more. Morales leaned against the wall, chest heaving, adrenaline buzzing in her ears. One of the bikers turned to her, eyes scanning for injuries. Without a word, he picked up her fallen radio and placed it gently in her hand. Another shrugged out of his leather jacket and draped it over her shoulders, shielding her from the cold and from the moment. "You all right, officer?" the gray-bearded man asked. She nodded, still catching her breath. "Yeah, thanks to you." He gave a small shrug. "Wrong place for that kind of thing." Sirens wailed in the distance now, growing louder by the second. The restrained attacker started to beg, but no one listened. The Angels stayed exactly where they were, hands visible, prisoner secured, waiting. When the patrol cars finally pulled in, lights washing the alley red and blue, the scene made no sense at first glance. A suspect held by bikers, and a cop standing safe beside them. That night, the unthinkable wasn't the violence that almost happened. It was the restraint that stopped it. Red and blue lights flooded the back of the gas station, bouncing off brick walls and chrome like a fractured sunrise. Patrol cars skidded to a stop, doors swinging open, officers stepping out with weapons half raised, then freezing in confusion. What they saw didn't match any scenario they'd trained for. A female officer standing upright, wrapped in a leather jacket. A suspect restrained, face down, not bleeding. And a line of Hell's Angels standing calmly nearby, hands visible, unmoving. "Easy," the gray-bearded biker said, voice steady. "He's the one you want." Officer Morales took a step forward despite the ache in her body. "It's okay," she told her fellow officers. They stopped the assault. They called it in. That changed everything. Weapons lowered, radios crackled, an EMT was waved through. As medics checked Morales for injuries, the Angels remained where they were, answering questions one by one. No attitude, no defiance, just facts, times, movements, what they saw, what they did, what they didn't do. The suspect was cuffed and hauled up, terror still written across his face. He wouldn't look at the bikers. He wouldn't look at anyone. One officer quietly handed back the leather jacket. Morales hesitated, then returned it to its owner. "Thank you," she said again, this time with weight behind the words. The biker nodded once. Someone had to. By the time the scene cleared, dawn was creeping into the sky, washing the gas station in pale gray light. The Angels mounted their bikes without ceremony. Engines roared to life, loud but controlled. As they rolled past, Morales raised her hand in a small salute. One of them tapped 2 fingers to his helmet in return. No photos were taken, no names exchanged, but by morning, the story still spread, passed between officers, whispered at coffee counters, shared in disbelief. Not as a tale of gangs or badges, but as a reminder, the world isn't always divided the way people think it is. Behind a forgotten gas station, justice didn't come from a courtroom or a weapon. It came from people who chose, in a single moment, to do the right thing. And then right away,